If you're looking for an action-packed dashcam video, then avert your eyes now. This ain't it. This is an uneventful drive for about 25 minutes from Brisbane City to the northern suburbs. Unlike many of my previous videos, I was wanting to travel, shall we say, expeditiously as possible. So you'll probably see a few more lane changes than usual as I try to get a better deal in another lane. That said, it also depends on the circumstances. As I pointed out in a previous video, once you're travelling above 80 kilometers an hour or so, a change of 5 or 10 kilometers per hour over these short distances doesn't amount to much. Today I'll be travelling across the William Jolly Bridge, then on to Roma Street, Hale Street and the inner city bypass, and then along Kingsford Smith Drive at Hamilton. I'll take the ramp to Southern Cross Way, heading towards Hendra, and then on to the Gateway Motorway. It's an excellent day for driving. Mild temperatures of about 26 degrees. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. So we're heading out of Brisbane, so it's counterflow to the main inbound traffic for peak hour. It'll be a good journey. It's about to take the left turn down onto Caxton Street, and then it's 40 kilometers an hour along Caxton Street. There's a lot of clubs and pubs along here, so it's just set to 40 kilometers an hour. Then I'll be indicating to turn right onto the Hale Street ramp that joins on to the ICB. And once the main traffic gets a red light down here, the right turn arrow will come on and we'll go down Hale Street and join up to the ICB. It's a little bit awkward at this point because we do need to get across a couple of lanes and there's people moving in all sorts of directions, so it's a bit tricky. So as I'm heading along through here and wanting to keep going on the ICB as far as Kingsford Smith Drive, I'll be wanting to be in the right hand lane as soon as possible because I'll be pushing to the far right lane. On our right, we'll soon have the Legacy Way tunnel traffic joining us in their 2 lanes on the right hand side, and at the same time it's becoming a 70 kilometre hour zone. I'll be wanting to head right across the next 2 lanes to my right, so I'll wait for an opportunity for that. As it gets quite congested in this area, you will often see the speed get dropped down to 60 kilometers an hour. So now that I'm safely tucked away in that right hand lane, I should be right to stay here now until I get on to Kingsford Smith Drive. Kingsford Smith Drive has 3 lanes, and so it's really hard to choose a winner out of those 3 lanes, but we'll just see how the traffic goes. So the middle lane has an option of going to the airport link tunnel. This lane that's coming up on the left, this turn on the left, is also to the other tunnel. So soon we're going to have another speed change and a blink and you'll miss it. A 60 sign nailed to a light pole, so you have to be careful to drop your speed to 60 at this point. Like I said, very easy to miss that one. So in the mornings, heading through this section where we come on to Kingsford Smith Drive, it can get quite congested. So from research over travelling this route hundreds of times, the right lane has a chance of being more free than the other two lanes. But it really depends on the day. So if you're travelling in the left lane coming through here, you'll notice that there's traffic coming in to merge with that lane. And as we go down this dip and up the other side, you'll see as we come around the corner that we'll meet the traffic that is currently stopped at the traffic lights. So this is where the traffic can back up. So some mornings you can't even get through that tunnel that we just went through, and other days it's like this, which is fairly free and easy. Lights have just changed, so I'll slide in behind this electric car. Like I said, it's hard to know to pick which one of these lanes is the best. The left lane is often quite good, except it really depends on the price of petrol. If it's cheap, you'll have a lot of traffic going in and out of the service stations on the left. So there's one here and one a bit further along, so you just have to be mindful that you could get caught up in that sort of traffic. And the right lane is not too bad most of the time, except sometimes you'll get trucks that are wanting to turn right further along to the industrial areas at Hamilton. So sometimes that would seem like a good deal, but then a couple of trucks and it becomes the worst deal. So today I've chosen the middle lane, and we'll just see if that turns out to be a good decision or not. It's quite picturesque along here. It's quite a nice drive in the mornings as you're going along the Brisbane River. There's people out rowing and sailing, and there's also the city cat ferrying people to and from the city. And as there is a walkway along the edge of the river there, a lot of people take the opportunity to walk and exercise their dogs and all sorts of things. So I think my logic is to avoid the left lane and to get into that right lane if I can. I don't see any trucks ahead, so it might be a good deal. Just keep an eye on that electric car. That'll be the benchmark as to whether it was a good choice or not. Ultimately, as we get towards Southern Cross Way turnoff, we will need to be in the left lane to take that ramp up onto Southern Cross Way. So I'll need to move across at some point the two left lanes. So far the right hand lane is a dud and it's not looking too promising, so price of fuel wasn't cheap. I think I saw the sign at $2.10, so can't imagine there'd be a lot of traffic going into that station for fuel. Also up ahead on the left we've got the TAFE College, Technical and Further Education College, and so you will get some people pulling in there in the mornings and leaving from there in the afternoons. That's quite near the turn off to Southern Cross Way, so just be mindful of getting caught in that left lane with traffic that's slowing down to turn at the lights to go into the TAFE College. So you can see I've just negotiated into the middle lane and now I'm in the left lane. So that's the TAFE College on the left, and it's this set of lights where people will turn into that college. You'll occasionally get buses here as well. There's a bus stop just on the other side of these lights. So you just have to be patient if you're behind a bus that's pulling over to set down or pick up. We've got a cycle lane on the left of us and we've got a cyclist who's moved up to the lights, so timing wise these cyclists will be a little bit of a obstacle that we need to negotiate around, either go ahead or behind them, because they'll probably be wanting to go straight ahead, not up onto Southern Cross Way, which means that we'll be crossing paths. Trying the best we can to keep away from the cyclists. It's not far to that ramp, so I'm wanting to get ahead of them as best I can before cutting across their path. Unfortunately, we've got a truck on this ramp, so it's slowing down everyone's progress. But it should be okay once we get up top. We should be able to get around it. So I normally indicate early when I'm merging into the next lane. And I keep watching the mirrors, making sure I've picked my opportunity to move into that lane. It's quite interesting, that's just one spot that for some reason the traffic coming through doesn't really want to merge too well. In theory everyone should merge at speed. We've got sufficient space to get up close to the speed limit, and they should be doing the speed limit, and so merging shouldn't be a problem, but oftentimes people are having to slow right down to be able to merge, or they're getting run over the top of. It's quite an interesting merge at that point. It's one of the few places where there just seems to be some issue with merging, and I don't really understand why. But I've come across so many instances where it's a bit of a battlefield, that there's something clearly psychological about that merge point. So I've mentioned before, as we go up and over the road beneath us, on the left we also have another merge lane which is quite often very busy, and it's got slow moving traffic coming in. So this can be a little bit, so we've got a bus, no, we've got a truck coming in there. So that's fine, we'll be way ahead of that. But oftentimes, it's another merge. They don't have much of a lane before it finishes. It's very short, it's only 50 metres or so before they have to merge with us, and in theory we're doing 90 kilometres an hour, so it's not a lot of distance for them to get up to speed to be able to merge without hindrance to the traffic that's flowing through. So it can create some issues, but today, because of that truck, we were able to easily get into this lane. Now this is a very slow truck in front of me. He's only probably doing 75 in 90 zone, and I'm assuming he's going to turn off, which he does. So I'm travelling well under speed, but I'm not too concerned at this point. So I'll get overtaken by a few cars who've got places to be. So as we join up to the Gateway Motorway, this will become a single lane, and at the same time the speed will increase to 100 kilometres an hour. As the lanes merge, it's not critical to be in the right-hand lane. I find people sort of get caught up in thinking that they have to be in the right-hand lane for some reason, but I normally just stay in this lane until it physically runs out of space and just merge, pick my spot to merge and just merge. I don't see a lot of advantage in jumping into that right lane too early, as did the car ahead of me, did the same thing. So now we're merging with the 100 km/h traffic, and as you can imagine, the centre lane is probably the safest and easiest place to be. And because we're not travelling a huge distance, the difference between travelling at 95 or 100 kilometres an hour, I've worked the math out to be only 30 seconds over the distance that I travel, so it's really not worth breaking into a sweat trying to overtake vehicles or change lanes too often and things like that. Which I must admit, up until a few months ago, I thought that at 100 kilometres an hour you'd want to be doing pretty close to that speed limit, and that 95 or 90 was completely unacceptable. But now that I realise that it actually makes virtually no difference, it's not even a stop at a set of traffic lights difference, it's not worth all the angst. Obviously it's different if you're travelling long distances on, say, the Bruce Highway, and you're going 100 kilometres or a couple of 100 kilometres, then Sure, hold-ups for any length of time on the highway is definitely going to make a difference to your arrival time, but for these Brisbane suburbs, it's not worth, for the short distance that we travel, not worth trying to push it from 95 to 100. So as you can see, it's been a fairly straightforward run, nothing too dramatic, and it's a nice day for it. The car I'm travelling in has adaptive cruise control, so once I set it, it's keeping an eye on the car in front in this lane and will adjust the speed to keep a safe distance between the vehicles. As you can see, there's a lot of traffic on the other side of the road going towards the city, but it's moving at a fair rate given the volume, so I think they'll have a good trip in. Ahead of us, the speed limit will change to 90 kilometers an hour to get everyone safely around this reasonably tight corner. So here's the speed limit change to 90. And on the right hand side you'll see that high road, that traffic coming towards us. The plan for that over the next few years is to make that 3 lanes, but as you're coming around that corner it will merge from 3 to 2 on the bend at 100 kilometers an hour. I must say I don't really see that the science will back the idea of merging lanes on a bend at 100 kilometers an hour. I just don't see that as being a smart thing to do. But I've seen the proposed plans for that redevelopment, and I was like very surprised that they plan to do that. So the left lane will turn off here to Bracken Ridge. Doesn't get a lot of traffic going to Bracken Ridge, but we often get cars joining, as we have on the left hand side here, a couple of cars coming in. They do not have a large lane in which to get up to full speed before they have to merge, so you do have to give them some space. And what does seem odd as we come up to this flyover to join up to Gympie Road and become the Bruce Highway, where the speed limit here is 100 kilometers an hour, and yet we're going around at least a corner as tight as the one we've just been on, where we had to drop to 90. So it baffles me a little bit how or why they decide these sort of speed changes. So as we come up to the bridge ahead of us, we're leaving Brisbane City, and that will be the end of our journey today. Thank you for coming along for the ride. Hope you enjoyed it. I quite like making these videos and recording the trips, and if the comments and the journeys are helpful, then I'm really glad.